Is no restart.
Big move in Bitcoin then, in contrast to all the notes I wrote pre-show, which were telling me that this was going to put Bitcoin under pressure.
The narrative that perhaps this launch of these political meme coins will sap flows from Bitcoin is showing us that it's really not the case this morning. If anything, it's just accelerated the momentum and the excitement around cryptocurrency under another Trump
administration.
Hi, Dewald. What is all this FOMO about? Should I buy Bitcoin now?
Are you smoking your socks? You should rather watch my show. You should rather watch my show.
Right, legends. Everyone getting ready for the weekend. Here in South Africa, you know, we braai over a weekend. And for those of you that don't know, let me ask the question. Do you guys know what a braai is? Do you know what is a braai? Let me know in the comments. Right, legends, welcome to another live stream. Remember to smash up that like button on your way in if you haven't done so already. Ishan, the legend, is back again. Hi, Dewald. Hi, all. Yes, I'm back here again. And as per the whole week, okay, I have been receiving numerous requests from you, the community, in terms of Dewald. Please show us on the macro time frame, which is the daily or the weekly time frame, which scenarios has been invalidated and which scenarios are still in play. So I'm going to take some time and we're going to go through the daily time frame. We're going to focus on the bearish and the bullish case scenario. We're going to try and figure out which one carries the highest probability, where are the invalidations for each scenario. And obviously, legends, we need to focus here on the smaller time frames as well, okay? We need to focus here on the smaller time frames. We want some day trading, scalping opportunities. Are we going up? Are we going down? Very interesting. Something that I also noticed, right, legends? Something that I also noticed is the Bybit chart and the Binance chart are painting two very different pictures at the moment. Here is the Bybit chart, USDT or USD, and here is the Binance chart. And can you guys spot the difference, right? It's quite frustrating that these charts don't line up. You know, why can't there just be one damn chart? All the levels just makes perfect sense. And then this creates confusion. When I take a fib here from the high to the low, okay, on the Binance chart, we have tapped the 786. We did not tap the 0.88. Okay. And also that rejection that I was talking about yesterday at the 0.618 did not tap my Binance chart. But on Bybit, we tapped it to perfection and we got the drop to the downside. And I was wondering, why are we getting the drop, but we didn't tap a proper Fibonacci level? And then someone pointed out in our Legends Pro community, Dewald, on Bybit it did, right? You tapped the 0.618 and we had a nice little fall here to the downside, the rejection. And then on the Bybit chart, we tapped the 0.88, which increases the probability that we are going to come and claim this high over here. But on Binance, it increases the probability that we're going to find some downwards momentum over here, because this is quite, you know, this is a bearish rejection, especially if you did not tap the 0.88. So a lot of confusion inside of this corrective structure at the moment, legends. Lot of confusion. Let me just do this. I just want to fix this. I just want to drag this ever so slightly. There we go. Right, legends, there is a lot to discuss today. Yes, welcome to the live stream. Ryan, ja, boet, braais are lekker. Hey, Ryan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If I'm not mistaken, you from KZN. I remember you. Right, braais are really nice here in South Africa, okay? Is braai barbecue? Yes, Hishan, you nailed it. You nailed it. Well, you know, a barbecue, I think most people from the European countries, a barbecue for them is to switch on the gas and put some patties or burger patties and, you know, braai some meat or cook some meat on a barbecue. Here in South Africa, we use wood and charcoal, a real fire, okay? And we cook our meat that way because it gives the meat a much different flavor, that charcoal taste. It's absolutely amazing. I know in some countries you have to get a license to make a fire, even just to cook food in your own backyard. But here in South Africa, we all have braais, okay? If you don't have a braai, you're not a South African. Right. There we go. There we go. Yes, you guys guessed it. Carl, welcome here to the live stream. Good morning. It's quite an early live stream here from me today. And as per the thumbnail, legends, you know, I don't want to be the bearish peanut in the packet. All I'm going to do is, from a technical perspective, show you what the scenarios are. Okay, that's all I'm going to do. I'm staying neutral. I'm not picking sides. And I will, you know, and I think yesterday and the day before, we did go through what needs to happen to invalidate these bearish case scenarios. At the moment, there is still a possibility and unfortunately a high probability to even go and hit $60,000. The world is bullish right now. No one wants to hear it. Okay, people have started buying and adding into their altcoin portfolios. We're only going up, right? And you could be right. You could be right that we're only going up, but you know, you can't just go up without at least a retracement. Nothing goes up in a straight line. So if I go here onto the 4-hour time frame, let's just keep it very simple here at the moment. Okay, let me take this FIP here out the way. Let's just, you know, guys, let's keep it as simple as we possibly can. Right, you have a trend from the high that we've broken out from here. We all remember this little bit of this damn fake out that we spoke about, increasing the probabilities to come and claim the low, which we did. And then finally we got the breakout. We have high time frame candle closes above the trend. That is a bullish sign, right? So worst case scenario, what you would like to see is, okay, people are now, you know, retail is FOMOing into this pump over here, right? We're going up. Bull market is back, okay? And so usually when you break out from a trend, price comes back for a retest, right? What if, in still the bullish case scenario, price just simply comes back for a retest, it still forms a higher low, and then off we go. Right? From a simplicity perspective, that's definitely a possibility. You're basically just applying your trading strategy. Okay, we broke out. I made some money in this move. Maybe I took some profits over here. We come back for a retest. I load up again. I put my stop loss below the low, and that is how you trade it. It literally is as simple as that. Okay, there's no bias. Okay, I'm not sure what the correct word is to use, but there's right, legend, it's just about applying your trading strategy. This is a retest, we're holding the trend, my stop goes, you're applying your rules. Okay, we're holding the trend, I'm buying up the higher low, it's scaring the shit out of a lot of people. Everyone that bought over here is now underwater, panic selling. Okay, and this is where I'm loading up, and now I'm expecting momentum back to the upside. So from a simplicity perspective, you know, bearish but still bullish at the end of the day. Nothing just goes up in a straight line. The wave has to come and retrace itself at some point. Okay, right, legends. And now when you look at this little structure that we have formed here to the upside, so I'm going to quickly just focus here on the smaller time frame, and then I'm going to show you guys, well, how on earth do we get to $60,000 from here? I'm going to show you how we get to $60,000. Very interesting area, okay? When I was doing my scenarios this morning, it took me a couple of hours to put all of these scenarios together, especially for you guys that have been asking me. Very interesting where we got rejected. Oh, but I'll dive it into. Remember to stay tuned. You don't want to miss out on these, on the alpha that I'm about to share. Okay, Legends, when you look at the structure, unfortunately, the structure can be counted in many ways. The most obvious structure, because of the shallow retracement, is what if this is an A, B, C? It's a three-wave. It's a damn three-wave structure. Okay, doesn't look good. If this is a three-wave structure in an ABC, which is a corrective structure, this is the C wave over here, it increases the probabilities that at some point you're going to come claim the lows again. So this structure needs to start forming a five-wave structure to the upside. Whether that is, okay, and I do see a lot of people are still keeping an eye on this count. 1, 2, okay, 3, 4, 5. Okay. What needs to happen is, if this is a five-wave structure, the retracement needs to be a bullish retracement, and you want to see a lazy three-wave structure back to the downside that forms a higher low and continuation back to the upside. That is where you practice your simple trading strategy. Okay, then there's another way to say that, well, what if this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, this is 2, this is 3, so now you have 1, 2, 3, you still expect a larger corrective structure, similar in time, okay, and then we go up for one more high. Now we have a beautiful 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Beautiful, increasing the probabilities that any retracement becomes a load up zone. Maybe you find support over here, you load up, off to the races you go. You play the break of the trend over here, okay. Remember guys, the price doesn't have to come back to the trend. Okay, this corrective structure will give us all the information that we need to potentially play a breakout back to the upside. Whether it still goes up and down, you know, there's going to be a trend. There's going to be a way to get into this trade. Exactly what what happened to this little triangle. There was a, you know, simple triangle. Boom, you play the breakout. You don't care what structure it is. Well, this is a breakout. I'm applying my trading strategy, right? You enter, stop below the low. When price starts consolidating, hitting resistance to the upside, you take profits. So at the end of the day, from a macro perspective, it doesn't matter whether we're going to $60,000 or whether we're starting a bull market back to the upside. If you are a day trader, you actually don't care. From an investment perspective, spot bags, okay, maybe you've got an altcoin portfolio. Yes, we want the market to continue to the upside, but I think that is why it's important to never go all in with everything that you have, speculating that this is it. This is the low. I'm deploying 100% of my capital. I'm selling my wife, my house. I'm staying in a tent in my parents' backyard because I'm all in on crypto, and then price falls down and it goes to $60,000. If you are comfortable with being uncomfortable and being underwater, okay, and you are still bullish long term, you will just be patient and you'll wait it out, right, for price to come back to your entry and even go beyond. If you have some dry powder, you could potentially now drag down your entry price, okay, from a spot perspective. If you're in a leverage trade, you're most probably going to get liquidated. Okay, and this is why I told everyone I am not opening up any swing trades at the moment. Bitcoin has not shown me that it wants to continue to the upside based on the structure that we have formed right now. This structure is not convincing for me at the moment to start opening up any damn swing trades. Yes, small little day trades, high leverage day trades, you're in, you're out, taking your profits by no, you know, that's the name of the game. Right, Legends, remember also, if you'd like to come and trade with me, links are always down in the description where I organize you guys the best deals that these exchanges has to offer. I've got weeks, 20% cash back on the money that you deposit to trade with for free. You can use it towards losses. The only rule is you need to keep your money in the exchange for at least 3 days, 3 consecutive days, right? And then they will drop 20% of whatever you deposited into your account to trade with. Right, I think it is capped at $2,000, so the maximum you can deposit is $10,000 to qualify for $2,000 free money to trade with. You also get 25% discount on your trading fees, and then Bluffin, right? The more you trade, more money gets airdropped into your account. If you don't like weeks, I've got Bluffin. Both of these exchanges, you can verify yourself, but you don't have to. Okay, and you can start doing some leverage trading. Right, and if you'd like to join our Legends Pro community, the setups and the scenarios that I'm about to discuss over here from the smaller time frame perspective has already been dropped inside of our Legends Pro community. So Legends, let's get into the meat and potatoes. The reason why everyone is here on the live stream. Dewald, yesterday you said it can go like down like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 structure also. Yesterday you said it could go down. Right, I'm not sure if you're talking about the larger time frame or the smaller time frame over here, because I did 2 live streams yesterday. Okay, so I'm not sure which vitalative, I'm not sure which scenario you're referring to, but I'm going to go through all the scenarios over here. I was all in on that low, but I have good risk management in place on swing trade. Yeah, I mean, that's amazing, right? If you do have a swing trade open and you have good risk management in place, why not? If you get stopped out and you lose peanuts, always a great scenario to be in. Okay, it just worries me sometimes when people enter swing trades, they don't apply proper risk management, and if they do get stopped out, they lose a significant part of their portfolio. Because most people, when they start out and they open up swing trades, they go in with a big chunk of their portfolio. They add a little bit too much leverage. Okay, right, so MK Alexander, well done. Right, Dewald, it can go 1, 2, 3. Also, you mentioned yesterday something like that. Yes, we're going to go through all of those scenarios today. Can you see SUI chart? Right, I will see if there's time to go through some altcoins towards the end of the live stream. The reason, the how can I say it? The bigger part of this community are here for Bitcoin analysis at the end of the day. So if there's time, I'll definitely look at some altcoins as well, right? HBAR has done some amazing thing, by the way, here to the upside, okay? This is a breakout that we spoke about yesterday morning, I think. The first live stream, I think we spoke about this breakout over here. Some people were monitoring this little breakout, and I said, I like this trend more. If you close a 15-minute candle above this trend, that's a good trade, right? And it's now come to claim the highs. Beautiful trade. I mean, from a percentage perspective, even if you entered over here all the way to the highs, it's a 5 point, let's call it almost a 6% trade here to the upside. Absolutely amazing. These are the trades that you would like to, that you want to get into. Okay, right, Legends, you will see that my layout for my YouTube, for my Bitcoin chart looks a little bit different, okay? But before I dive into the larger time frame, let's do a quick little analysis here on the smaller time frames. Okay, so now, let's go to the 1 hour first. Quickly want to discuss the 1 hour time frame. Right, Legends, there's a chance that you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a chance that the structure could be complete, okay, in a 5-wave structure. It would make sense to go and make one more high over here, right? We have some liquidity to the upside, and when I count, okay, and I'm going to go into the 5-minute, 15-minute time frame now. When I count this structure, it still looks awfully corrective. It does not look like it's forming impulses to the downside. So yes, it can still go sideways, which is a corrective structure. It can even go a little bit deeper, find support, and then go up. But for now, based on the data that I have available, it looks like we're still going to come and claim the high at least once more before we claim the low. That's what it looks like, even if there's a 5th wave already in over here, which means that we could be busy with a larger 4th wave corrective structure. Okay. Right, let me just take this out the way. Okay, the reason I'm starting to lean towards the probability, well, what if, because we counted the structure yesterday to say that, well, what if this is 1, 2, this is 3, this is 4, that's forming over here, and we're going up for one more leg to complete the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But this corrective structure is becoming very long in time compared to this corrective structure, which is now starting to decrease the probabilities. Okay, let me show you what I mean. If I go here onto the 15-minute time frame and I zoom into this little structure over here, I can count multiple 1, 2s. Okay, you have your 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, which means that is 1. So your correction started from here till here. That was wave 2. Okay, all of this was wave 2. And there is a relationship in time between the waves. So what is becoming a little bit concerning to me is the following. If I take a time fib from the end of the impulse, okay, to the end of the correction, and I overlay it to, let's just put it on the top over there, you can now see that this corrective structure is becoming more than 5 times the length of this corrective structure, which now gives me a hint that potentially the 5 waves are done. It's done, right? This corrective structure is not for this impulse anymore. This corrective structure could be a larger corrective structure that is forming for the okay, let me show you guys, right? Let me take it out the way. So maybe what is happening over here is that you now have a 1, 2, 3, a bigger 4. The bigger 4 is now forming to go and create the last push to the upside, right? Where this wave already has the 5 waves inside of it. But now in order to get a 5 wave structure, you need one more high when you're looking at the entire structure, okay, from a 1 hour perspective. Anyways, legends, let's zoom in to the 15-minute time frame and look at this mess that is happening here upstairs. Okay, absolute mess. And yeah, I mean, it can be counted in a number of ways. 2 of the scenarios I've already prepared here on the Bybit chart. Right, so looking at the structure, what if this was an A, B, C, and a W? Okay, all of this mess here to the upside. Remember what I said, legends, yesterday, is that I really struggle to count this mess as an impulsive structure to the upside, where you want to form 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You want to go claim the high. And it's an absolute mess over here, right? So this mess can now potentially end where you have a W in a A, B, C. Okay, you have a complex corrective structure in an X, and remember what I said yesterday. If the X wave taps the 786, especially the 0.88, it decreases the probabilities that you're going to come and take this low, which means that your Y wave over here, okay, WXY can end in a triangle. And it can also end in 2 ways, basically, okay? It can either end in an A, B, C, D, E, and I mean, we need to see how this is going to play out, right? We still need more data for this to form. Or it can form, look at the orange structure that I have over here, a normal A, B, C that does not claim the low, a normal zigzag in a Y wave, and then we go and claim the high again, right? So these are the WXY corrective structures. And then I highlighted another scenario to the Legends Pro community this morning to say that, well, what if this is not a complex corrective structure? What if it's more simple? What if it's just a simple ABC? Okay, what do I mean by a simple ABC? Well, I'm basically looking at, okay, what if this is, let me see if I've got the right one over here, ABC. What if this is a normal A, okay, this was a B, and we're now going down for a C. Normal 3-wave structure. You have a 3-wave structure in A, which is perfectly normal. You have a 3-wave structure in B, which makes sense. Now the structure makes sense. This structure makes sense as a 3-wave structure. And what we are starting to form now is impulses back to the downside to go and complete the C wave. Okay. Right, which is hopefully going to find some support inside of this consolidation area. And also, if I take a trend-based fib to go and measure, well, where can this end? From the high to the low of A to the high of B, well, then we have our C wave targets. 1-to-1 extension, 1.236, the most common area for a C wave. And then you have an extended C wave to the downside that can even hit the 1.618. And then you get a bounce back to the upside. Right, so legends, who knows, right? I think If we are going to build a triangle, remember this scenario that I've shown you. If you're going to build a triangle, you should not take this low. So you now want to see an A, B, C, D, E. So it's becoming that little triangle. Okay, this high is not allowed to take this high. This low is not allowed to take this low. This high is not allowed to take that high. And then when you've created a completed A, B, C, D, E, you expect what? A breakout, right? So keep an eye on this trend. That's your trading scenario. Because although I'm going through the scenarios, you might be asking yourself, but how on earth do I trade this? There's so many scenarios. How do I trade it? Have your trend ready. Wait for the breakout. Put your stop below the low. Target your $96,000, $92,000 or $97,000 area. I think if we do successfully break out here, I think we're going to see some, it's going to stretch its legs a little bit here, at least up until $96,200. Right, so that is how I plan to trade this scenario. If we fall here to the downside in an impulsive C wave, where you have 1, 2, okay, so what I'm going to look for is if we lose the low, right, 3, 4, 5, I'm going to wait for the completion of the 5-wave structure. There will most probably be a nice little steep trend there as well. I'm going to play the breakout over there. Can you guys see? I'm keeping it simple. Based on the scenarios, I still know where to look for longs. I still know where to enter with good risk management. I can also use the Fibonacci levels as swing failure lines. So depending on your trading strategy, you either play the breakout or you're a pro at swing failure patterns. I do like this little consolidation area, 1-to-1 extension, 1.236. Okay, especially if you can start counting that nice little impulse to the downside. So if you can see a 3-wave structure, especially after you're claiming that high, it's not time yet. You have to see waves has to have 5 waves. So if you see this, it's not time yet. You have to wait for another leg to the downside. You have to be able to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once you start counting these 5-wave structures and it starts hitting these levels, okay, that's where it becomes interesting to start looking for longs. So if you don't know what to do over here, right, hopefully there's a nice little trend that's going to form there and then you play the breakout. So I always have a backup trading strategy. So based on all the scenarios, legends, because I see some people sometimes say, Dewald, it's so overwhelming. You go through bullish case scenarios, bearish case scenarios. I don't know how do you actually trade it? Well, now I'm showing you. I don't care whether it's going to form a triangle or a zigzag. Okay, I'm going to play the break of the trend over here, right? If it forms a triangle, especially if I see the E point and I can count a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a zigzag, beautiful triangle. This high didn't take that high. This low didn't take that low. That's where the picture is going to start becoming very clear to me. Then I'll play this breakout, okay? Or I'll enter here at the bottom because that gives me better risk management. It's always better to try and find entries as close to your invalidation as possible. So there's a couple of ways in which you can get into this trade. Okay, cool, legends. I think that basically for me, for now, there's other things as well, but I think this summarizes the lower time frames. For now, I am struggling. Why do I say I think the probabilities are higher to come and claim this high before we claim the low? Okay, before we come and claim this low. It's because of what happened here. This is the confusing part. Okay, because when you've hit a top and we're going to start creating impulses back to the downside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to go down, right? We're going to start creating bigger impulses to the downside and we're going to smack the lows back to the downside. You need to start forming impulses. This is not an impulse. This looks very corrective, okay? Which means that if you are forming your first 1, 2, and you're now going down for 3, you want to count clear 5 waves. You want to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Clear 5-wave structure to the downside. It's a mission to count a 5-wave structure in this to the downside. Okay, doesn't make sense. So based on the price action that is playing out over here, it still looks extremely corrective. Even if we come and hit $90,000 or even $89,000 over here, it still looks very corrective, increasing the probabilities of coming to claim this high before you claim the low. Okay. The one thing that I did spot here on the smaller time frame, legends, is if I go here onto the 5 minute, let's see if we can see it on the 5 minute time frame. This little move to the downside, okay, this is the clues that I look for. If we're going to form this bigger C wave here to the downside, look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Beautiful. This is the formation of an impulsive structure to the downside because your C waves has to have 5 waves to the downside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 waves inside of each wave. This looks extremely corrective here to the upside. Okay, so it's either going to form that triangle, or this is the leading wave and this is the corrective wave, and we're gonna, but now you want price to dump, because if this is 1 and this is 2, price needs to start accelerating to the downside. Okay, what do I mean by that is that if you are now busy with a C wave and you're starting to form impulses to the downside, of which now I can see 5 waves here to the downside. So if this is going to form a 1, 2, you want price to now start falling. It needs to fall aggressively. High volume needs to start kicking in. Okay, if it's going to just chop, 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 chop slowly here to the downside, it's not what you want to see in a third wave. Third waves has the most volume, they are the most aggressive. So if this is the end of the correction, you really want price to now fall. It needs to fall hard, quickly, scare everyone. Okay, and then you get that 4, 5, and the structure comes to an end where you claim the low just one more time. Okay, so I mean, it is a bit concerning that this is a 5-wave structure to the downside here on the smaller time frames, right? This could be a corrective structure, and okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know how it's going to play out, but I have shared with everyone how I plan to trade all of these scenarios. Okay, remember, legends, to smash up that like button. Lazy Friday afternoon, we're all getting ready for the weekend. I'm not sure if you guys trade on Saturdays. I'm actually doing some analysis on weekend price action, but I'll share that with you guys next week. For now, okay, these are basically the scenarios that I'm tracking at the moment. Keep an eye on this trend. I know it only has 2 taps, but keep an eye on that trend, okay? There is the possibility that this corrective structure is not done. Maybe it does that and then it falls down, right? We've already swing failured from that little high. What a beautiful trade to get into. Okay, I just want to see how deep did this retracement go from the high to the low. I mean, it did tap the 0.618. Maximum target needs to be your 786. Okay, if price comes up here and it taps the 0.88, you increase the probabilities of claiming the high. Then I'm going to give higher probability to the triangle. Okay, because if you're creating a 1, 2, 3 to the downside, very rare target for a number 2. So you ideally maximum target 786 or where we reject it right now. Okay. Cool, legends. Those are basically the small little intraday scalping scenarios. Your backup trading strategy is my main trading strategy. Don't smoke your socks, guys. Yes, don't smoke your socks. Welcome you to the live stream, Shula. Right, a middle-aged man from China was recently hospitalized with a fungal lung infection, and doctors believe that the daily habit of sniffing his dirty socks may have been the cause. Ooh, you guys are ripping me apart over here, right? At least I'm not in hospital at the moment for smoking my stinking socks. Right, cool. Legends, this summarizes the smaller time frames for now, and maybe towards the end of the live stream we can jump into the smaller time frames again and just see how this played out, right? So I mean, I am in a short from here. No, I basically, I didn't see the fib level, which I should have, but I played the SFP from that little pivot. So I'm in a short. My position is already protected. If I get stopped out, I don't lose anything. At the moment, for me, it's a free trade here to the downside. If it reverses on me, I don't lose any cash, right? That's the power of swing failure patterns. You can very quickly protect your position and have a free trade. Right, so if we come and tap the 786, definitely I will pay attention. I want to set my alarm over here so I don't miss this, right? I want to see if we do shoot up here, I don't want to miss a potential trading opportunity. Okay, right, there we go. Legends, $60,000 as per the thumbnail. Some people are saying there's no more bearish case scenarios. It's only bullish from here. Well, I am here to share some facts. Not my belief, not because I want to, and not because I believe we are going to $60,000. I'm going to show you all the scenarios that could potentially still take us to $60,000 right over there. Look at that beautiful support and resistance over there. This $60,000 is also the naked point of control for this entire range that we've been in. And we have to acknowledge that currently Bitcoin is at a critical area of resistance. So all I'm doing over here is I'm giving you the facts, not being biased over here. Okay. Fact is, okay, when I go here onto the daily time frame, fact number one is we are hitting resistance, major resistance. This is where Bitcoin is struggling to the upside at the moment. Okay, this could have been a small little relief rally here to the upside in a three-wave structure that's going to continue in another three-wave structure to the downside, claim the low again. Okay, so let me go through some scenarios. Someone asked me, I think a week or two ago, Dewald, have you seen the M2 global money flow? For those of you that don't know what the M2 global money flow is, it basically shows you how much money is available in the world. Is money supply increasing or is money supply decreasing? And surprisingly, the M2 global money flow has a correlation, a direct correlation to the price of Bitcoin and risk on assets as well. So when I switch on the global M2 money supply, this is now where it becomes very interesting. Let me go onto the weekly time frame and show everyone what I mean. Okay. I need to put the chart in. Okay, it's already in logarithmic. I want to make sure that this is also in log scale. Okay, just need to align this. Okay, so let's go, legends. I think the daily is actually going to work better. There we go, right? Basically what this means, legends, is the more money is available in the world, it's usually when people have extra cash to invest in assets, crypto, Tesla, commodities, gold, silver, oil, right? And it has a direct, when money supply goes up, we go into a little bit of a bull run. When money supply consolidates, we consolidate. Money supply goes up, Bitcoin goes up. Money supply goes down, Bitcoin went down. But now look at what happened over here. Money supply shot through the roof. So here's a little bit of a bullish sign, is to say that, well, based on historical data, Bitcoin is now supposed to also find its feet and follow suit. Okay, there's a bullish sign. M2 money, global money supply shows that Bitcoin, potentially the low could be in. Even if we come back for rejection, we bounce on the trend and we continue and we catch up to the global money supply, which has been respected for most of this bull run here to the upside. Okay, almost to perfection, right? You guys can see money supply goes up, Bitcoin goes up. Money supply goes down, Bitcoin goes down. And now Bitcoin is lagging behind. For the first time, Bitcoin is lagging behind. But there is a little bit of a lag between risk on assets and the money supply. Right? Bitcoin now just started. And although we are hitting major resistance, what if we get that little bit pullback and then we start catching up to the global money supply? Okay, so there is a bullish sign. Okay, I'm just presenting the facts over there because I'm going to go into some bearish case scenarios and it actually goes against, okay? If Bitcoin is still going to fall here to the downside, then, you know, are we decoupling from this model for the first time? Doesn't really make sense, okay? Right, so there's a little bit of bullish news. I can switch that off. There we go. And then also, we all know the DXY, okay? We all know the DXY. Okay, we have a negative correlation to the DXY. DXY goes down, Bitcoin goes up. DXY goes up, Bitcoin goes down. The DXY has absolutely tanked here to the downside, which means that Bitcoin is supposed to reverse against the correlation. DXY falls, this is the DXY, the red line, by the way, guys. DXY falls down, Bitcoin is now supposed to find its feet back to the upside. With or without another small little low. Okay. Right, and you can go and backtest this. You will see always, okay, when DXY makes a high, Bitcoin makes a low, which it did over there, right? Look at this. Low, high. Okay, now we have a low and Bitcoin is still stuffing around over here. So potentially it's only starting to find its feet to print in the negative correlation. So just quickly wanted to show everyone a couple of facts over here. Remember to smash up that like button for the alpha, right, legends? Now, what I want to discuss now is let's go on to the 4-hour time frame and look at this corrective structure to the downside. Let's take this out. And this is now where I start talking about the bearish case scenarios. And there is a couple, so strap in, legends. This is going to get very interesting. Just want to make sure that I take all the noise out. Okay, let's see what is happening over here. One of the bearish case scenarios. So for everyone that has been telling me that there's no more bearish case scenarios, this is this is for you, right? For everyone hoping for a little bit lower Bitcoin prices, okay, to scoop up better Bitcoin prices to the downside, well, this is for you, okay? All of this here to the downside could have been an A wave, where you basically formed your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inside of an A wave. It could, okay, let's just keep it simple. All of this to the upside is a B wave. And then we're going to still make another C wave to the downside in a 3-wave corrective structure. And this is where I got the number from for the thumbnail. $60,000, very common C-wave target. We can find support at the 1-to-1 extension, which is $66,000. Worst case scenario is $52,000, where you have an A, B, C that even hits $52,000. But this is the most common box. How do we get there? That is the question. How do we get this move here to the downside? Right, so if I zoom into this little structure, just to briefly explain it so that it makes sense, that now you can see I'm counting this structure as an A, B, C. That is now potentially coming to an end. A 3-wave structure. What does a 3-wave structure give you in an ABC? It gives you a W. Okay, maybe we're going to come down in a complex corrective structure to then form a X. And then we go back up for another ABC in a Y, which then completes your bigger B wave. And you can see that, my friends, is a 3-wave structure that could potentially even take you to $100,000, $97,000, and then all shit breaks loose and we fall here to the downside. So here is a bearish case scenario. Okay, I'm not going to tell you guys how I'm going to trade these scenarios because we focus here on the smaller time frames. And if price does get here, okay, there's still a longing opportunity, right? You hit resistance, you take profits. Okay, anyways, legends, so here is still a very valid bearish case scenario where Bitcoin is simply now only finished the A leg to the upside. You create a 3-wave structure in a B wave, and then you create a 5-wave structure, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to complete your C wave. What is interesting and noteworthy about the structure is that even if we go and we tank to the downside, this low is still protected. Can you see? This low is still protected. You have an impulse, you have a three-wave deep corrective structure that even comes to $60,000, and you continue to the upside. In all of the bearish case scenarios, or most of the bearish case scenarios, I'm going to discuss over here. So people often ask me, Dewald, why do you always say the probabilities are higher to claim the high before we claim the low? Because even with these bearish case scenarios and these bearish case structures that I'm counting to the downside, I'm struggling to find a bearish case scenario that claims this low. Even if we come and claim this local low that we've made here. Okay, and this is why looking at the bearish and the bullish case scenarios, the probabilities are still higher to claim this high before we claim the low, even if we come down to $60,000. Right, this is one corrective structure that I'm keeping an eye on. Okay, then I can go into a little bit more timing, is to say that, well, you know, some people will ask me, well, Dewald, what if B wave is in? What if B is in and we're going to go down for C right now? Well, there's a problem. Okay, the B wave needs to extend a little bit because it has to do with time. If I measure how long it took to form the A wave right over there, your B wave has to finish after the 0.382. So if we cannot just fall from here, do you guys see timing? You know, this is how I see, well, is the high in? Can we still go make another high? Are we just going to tank? But I can tell you guys now, if we fall down here and then go back up, then it's time where the B wave can now fall and create the C wave. Because now the B has created itself after the minimum target. This high is before the 0.382. So I cannot put this structure there. That's why I'm still speculating on what if we're forming a larger ABC. Whoops, let me just redo that. Grab my pen. ABC, that's a three-wave structure. We go down for a complex corrective structure in X. You know, another ABC and a Y completes the B. You have a three-wave structure in a B wave. Always has to be a three-wave structure. And then boom, we fall here to create the C. Okay. Right, I think that's basically everything I wanted to discuss with this scenario. Then, let's go on to next scenario, WXY. Okay. Right, legends, this scenario is a different way to count the corrective structure, but it comes to exactly the same targets. Different way of counting it, same targets. So I have two bearish case scenarios that potentially gives me the same targets to the downside. So, and that is always why, you know, some people will sometimes ask me, Dewald, Andy has come up with a different Elliott wave count than you. And you have a different Elliott wave count, but you will often find we have the same targets because it doesn't matter how you count sometimes the structures. You come to the same areas of confluence. There's one difference, only one difference with this scenario over here is the high could be in. And you're going to fall down in an A, B, C. That's the only difference between the previous scenario and this scenario. The high is in and you fall down in an ABC. And you've basically formed a W. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a A, B, C here to the upside to form your X. And you go back down for an A, B, C to go and complete your Y wave. Same targets, 1-to-1 extension, 1.236. Very common Y wave targets. So the end result is exactly the same. But if we fall down here, okay, and claim the lows before taking the high again, then I know, okay, right, you know, it still becomes a bullish buying opportunity. And there's interestingly a nice little parallel channel that the structure is following from the all-time high to these lows that we created over there. Okay, this is basically how I drew the parallel channel. Okay, you have formed a WXY in W or an ABC in W. You can have a WXY inside of a W as well, but you know, without being complicated, you have a three-wave corrective structure in W. You have a three-wave corrective structure in X, and you could now be making a three-wave corrective structure in Y. And then you have a bigger 1, 2, 3. Do you guys see that? Let me make it a different color. There's your corrective structure. Three-wave corrective structure. 1, 2, 3. But can you guys see how complex corrective structures can get? They get insanely complex. Okay, it turns out to be a 3-wave structure, but I mean, boy oh boy, look at all the waves that's formed inside of this structure to get you the 3-wave structure at the end of the day to the downside. Right, the beauty about this structure, okay, is I want to just take the parallel channel here out the way so I can just clean it up ever so slightly. Where is that parallel channel? Here we go. Right, I just want to clean it up slightly. This structure has an invalidation. Yeah, the thick red line that I have over here will invalidate the structure. So if price can manage to squeeze a little bit higher until it taps $101,000, this scenario is inside of the dustbin. Delete it out of my folders. Why do I say that? Because I've just discussed the same scenario on the 15-minute time frame. If you take a fib from the high, okay, to the low of the structure, if your X wave, this little bad boy, the X wave over here, taps the 0.786, it significantly reduces the probabilities that your Y will take the low of W. So you want the invalidation to be tapped over here. This is exactly what I spoke about last night. Looking at the 5-minute, 15-minute time frame. Remember when I spoke about this WXY? Okay, because X wave tapped the 786 and the 0.88, if this is a WXY corrective structure, you now decrease the probabilities of taking this low. Okay, you either form a triangle or you form a zigzag in a Y wave that does not take the low because the retracement for your X went too deep. Now I'm just applying it to the larger time frame. So same theory, different time frame. Okay, so the rejection, legends, needs to happen now, soon. This week, next week, it needs to happen soon. Because now there's something very interesting about this scenario. Okay? If we can go and tap the invalidation, obviously I will throw the scenario in the bin. But look at where price is at the moment. It tapped the 1.618 to perfection. And this is now where we're currently getting the rejection. So as per the smaller time frames, it's perfectly fine to still do that and reject again. Okay, and now you have your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you start falling down in an A wave. You go back up, bearish CVD, price shows weakness, 3-wave structure here to the upside. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or another ABC here to the downside to go and complete your Y wave. So you might be asking yourself, well, how do I get this 1.618? You have an A, B, C. So you take your trend-based fib from the low to the high to the low. And we are now at the 1.618. It's a rejection zone. Okay, so we actually, guys, we actually want price to come and tap the invalidation to invalidate the scenario. It will, however, not invalidate the ABC scenario that I've just shared here on the larger time frame. Okay. But also, okay, if you look at the structure, it's also a 3-wave structure here to the downside. Right, so I think the scary thing about this corrective structure, which is bearish, but I'm still referring it to as a corrective structure because it's a corrective structure, it's a 3-wave structure, is that the rejection can happen at any moment right now to go and do this. Okay, that's the danger. Do you guys see that you're never out of the woods, right? If you believe that the low is in, well, okay, you need to invalidate the scenario. And, right, common targets for your Y wave here to the downside is the 1-to-1 extension and the 1.236, which gives you the same targets as the C wave that I've just discussed over here. Right, there we ABC, right? The end result is basically the same. The only difference between the previous scenario and this one is that you can now fall to the downside right now. Okay, where with this scenario, you could still go down, you could still go up, you create your B wave, and then you fall down. There is no invalidation, unfortunately, for this B wave. What is going to give me the clue of where potentially this B wave can reject, if it's going to form a WXY, I can measure that structure. I can measure this structure to figure out where the Y wave targets are. I need the scenario to play out. I need X wave to be in order to determine where the Y wave is going to end. So there's still some things that needs to play out over here. Right, let me see if I forgot something over here. Okay. Okay, now we're starting to get to scenarios, legends. Now we are starting to get to scenarios, but I think before I start discussing bullish case scenarios, okay, there's some bullish case scenarios. Okay, these are the two bearish case scenarios. This one, okay, $66,000 and $60,000. Also $66,000. They have the exact same target to the downside. That for now still carries high probability. So there's always a chance. We have to acknowledge that we are hitting major resistance. We have the M2 money flow, like I've just pointed out. We have the DXY falling to the downside, and perhaps that is going to be the fire or the wood that the fire needs to not claim this low. But you could still complete a three-wave structure, make a higher low, and continue the bull market back to the upside. Right. I wonder if I must go through those scenarios as well. I'm just going to keep it simple here, legends. You might be asking yourself the question, and now I'm going to go through some comments here as well, guys. You might be asking your questions, well, is there any chance, based on all the corrective structures, is there a corrective structure where the low could potentially be in and we're just going to rock and roll from here? That's what I want to discuss now. Okay, because I have to look at both bearish and bullish case scenarios. Does the bulls have a chance for this to be the low? Is there any chance for this to be the low based on this corrective structure? Or even this corrective structure? Okay, let me go through some comments and then I'll carry on. Jack, welcome to the live stream. We are oversold. Yes, we are oversold. I acknowledge that. I really do acknowledge that. But I just want to check something else. Okay, on the daily, we are oversold, which means that we could get a pullback. Or, you know, often what I have seen is even if price does this, it will reset the daily RSI back to the bottom. It does not have to claim the low. It just needs a consolidation to the downside. Okay. Worst case scenario is, yes, WXY, A, B, C. Okay. To go and reset this RSI. So I do acknowledge that the daily RSI is topping out. Definitely. You could definitely take that into consideration as well. The weekly one, right, it's just starting to get some upwards momentum. It's just starting. Right, but maybe the daily needs to reset itself before the weekly can continue to the upside. Right, cool, legends. Let me go through some more comments. BTC dominance, please. We can go and have a look at BTC dominance in a moment. Dewald, are you scaring the... Dewald, you are scaring the crap out of me. It's just technical analysis at the end of the day, right? Until the scenarios starts getting invalidated, then I start throwing some of them in the bin, and then other scenarios starts gaining in probabilities. But I can tell you guys now, from a you know, now that we're going to dive into the bullish case scenarios, okay, the most obvious that you would like to see is for price to form a 5-wave structure. Once you have a 5-wave structure, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's going to already invalidate the WXY. The WXY, it's going to invalidate it because it went too high there, for example. Okay, so on the local structure, you can find clues as to Okay, are we building impulses, or is it a three-wave structure? Whatever the case might be. So, you know, it would be nice to form that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we are now potentially busy with this little fourth wave over here. So if we can get a nice little leg here to the upside to come and hit these pivots at $98,000, that would be great, because then I can throw one of the bearish case scenarios in the bin. Starts increasing the probabilities that the retracements looks very attractive. Okay. Hello, Dewald. Coming late. Missed out the notification in our pro. Good to hear you again. Thomas, welcome, welcome. Yes, I see you all posting comments there in the Legends Pro community. Welcome here to the live stream. Luckily, these live streams are recorded, so you can go and rewatch at 2 times speed. Okay. Hi, Dewald. Do you think we will have time for a bull market to start again before October if we correct back to 61K? Now that, Heso, is a really good question. That, my friend, is a really, really good question. And I want to go and discuss that. Is there time? Okay. Is there time before here, where the bull market is supposed to come to an end, to still go up here, then go down, and then continue a rampage here to the upside? We can go and analyze that in a moment. Right, but a very, very, very good question. I'm actually, Heso, I'm going to flag your comment so I don't forget, because I want to discuss this, and I have it prepared over here. Do we have time? That is the question, right? Okay, I've gone through that. BTC coin to 444K. Mr. Banks, yes, I do have a bullish structure where Bitcoin can even hit $500,000, $600,000. $444,000, definitely a target. But there's a lot that needs to happen before we can talk about that scenario. Okay, and I will be talking about that scenario once we claim the highs. Okay, I don't really want to talk about it now. Okay, I do have a scenario where Bitcoin can hit $500,000. Unfortunately, right now, it doesn't carry high probability. The probabilities for now are still higher to at least come and claim the high again before we claim the low, and maybe come up here to the $125,000, $130,000 area. That is still the highest probable scenario at the moment. Once we get here, there's a couple of things that I'm going to look out for to see that, well, does the $500,000 scenario start gaining in probabilities or not? Okay, but I don't want to talk about scenarios like that, because I mean, that is extremely bullish. That is insanely bullish. Right. Okay, let me see. ESO, got your point. JD, I know, but I meant second rally. Right. Okay, cool, legends. Let me go through some more scenarios over here. Ooh, just want to take a sip of water. Right, legends, and I mean, before I continue over here, if you'd like to come and support the channel, trade with me, or you're not using a proper platform with nice bonuses and low trading fees, weeks, 20% deposit bonus, 25% discount on your trading fees, and Bluffin, all you need is an email and a password to sign up to these exchanges to qualify for the best deals and future exclusive competitions. Don't forget. Right, legends, let's continue over here. I'm going to go down my list. I'm going to make sure that I cover everything here today. Okay, I want to discuss this scenario now at the moment. So now I'm putting on the cap of, is there a chance that the low could be in? And we're just going to continue higher low, higher highs, and we're going to ramp ourselves out of this structure over here. Okay, so the first scenario, I just want to switch off this one. Okay, when we made this low, there was a chance for the Y wave to have been completed. And then this low stuffed up the whole scenario. It almost invalidated like an W, X, Y, we done. Low is in, and we're going to start ramping. And this even counted as a beautiful 5-wave structure. We had the 3-wave structure here to the downside. And then I said, legends, we need to claim the high. As if we claim the high, and then we missed the high by $50, $100, and we fell down, right? So now I see a lot of people talking about this. Okay, so it's exactly the same scenario, but you have another XZ. So you have a WXYXZ. And this is basically this little bad boy over here that I keep on switching on and off. So there's a chance, but I want to discuss the probability for a WXYXZ. You will see if you open up your Elliott wave tools over here. Here it is on the, you guys can see this. WXYXZ. When you study Elliott wave theory, it will tell you that this is an extremely rare scenario. Never preferred unless all other scenarios fail. Okay, so is there a chance? Of course. Is it extremely rare? Definitely. So this structure is then still valid. You're just adding another structure to it. So you have your WXYXZ that came to an end over here. What concerns me is that from an Elliott wave perspective, it's a very rare structure, but it's not an invalidation. So there's a chance that the low could be in. Okay, so that's the first bullish case scenario, right? Where the low could potentially be in, but it's built on a very rare structure. And I mean, at the end of the day, I trade probabilities. And if the probability for the structure has a low probability, I need to focus on the structures that carries higher probabilities. Okay. I don't care if it's going to play out or not play out. I need to trade probabilities at the end of the day, because the market is not for certain. And all we can do as traders is trade probabilities at the end of the day. Okay. Now I want to go down the list. Just see if I have missed anything over here. Most bearish macro. That is the most bearish macro. Okay. Oof. Yeah, I mean, that is the most bearish. There is a more bearish case scenario. All right, just want to make sure that I am large WXY. This WXY, I just, I wanted to delete it, but I just want to tell everyone why I'm deleting it before I delete it. Do you guys remember we were looking here at a W? We were looking at this X that formed the triangle. We had the A, B, C, D, E inside of the triangle, and the A wave to the downside, the A, B, C to go and complete your WXY here to the downside did not happen. We invalidated it. So this scenario is now in the bin. So I can delete the scenario. It invalidated itself. So it's nice to see some scenarios invalidating themselves. Then there was this contracting C wave here to the downside. Okay. The A, B, C. Okay. And we were expecting either another low here to the downside, or 4 is there, 3 is over here, 5 is over here. Okay, the invalidation for the scenario got hit, and which means, okay, well, now potentially it has come to an end. So what makes this scenario now very interesting is, I take the invalidation out, is can the low be in based on the scenario where this was the high, this was an A, B, contracting C to the downside, where you have formed a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, done. Low is in, and we're now starting to build impulses back to the upside. Again, I just want to highlight the problems with the structure. If I measure the A wave and the B wave, okay, basically the A wave, how long did it take to form the A wave? Okay, compared to how long did it take to form the C wave? Right, the C wave was formed, where's my numbers? Here by the 3 extension. So it doesn't really invalidate it, but it's out of balance. You can see how short your A wave is. Look at how short your B wave is. And look at how incredibly long your C wave is. The structure is out of balance. It's not an invalidation, but it doesn't look right. Okay. Another problem is, look at how long your 1 wave is. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have an incredibly long first wave, extremely short second wave, and then you go 3, 4, 5. So also not an invalidation, but it impacts probabilities for this to be the low, and we're going to start forming impulses and just claw our way back into the bull market. Right, so let me take that out. Let me make sure that I'm covering all of the scenarios. I want to see if this scenario is still valid, legends. Let's go here onto the 8-hour time frame. Just want to see something over here. I've often spoken about the scenario. I just want to see if it's still valid. Okay, if I take a fib, let's see if it invalidated itself. From this low to the high. Oof. Is this scenario still valid? Looks like it's still valid. Okay, look at the green structure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This structure is still intact because you did not tap the 618. Okay, so there's a chance that this structure is actually still in play, believe it or not. You have a 1, 2, 3, and we have now finished the 4, and we're now going up for a 5th wave to the upside. Right, let me just drag it down. I think it's a little bit bullish, right? Okay, interesting. I actually wanted to delete the scenario, but now that I've measured it out, it's actually still in play, right? I think the most important thing is I want to measure the corrective structure, okay, from a timing perspective. If this is the end of the impulse, that is number 2, and we overlay it to the high, even from a timing perspective, it's still valid. Right, I only start invalidating structures like this when your 4th wave starts tapping the 4 and the 5. Then I will start throwing the scenario in the bin. But I mean, it's still here. This low was created before the 3 extension over here. Right, here you had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here you had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This 1, 2 has not finished. 1, 2, 3. This is its 4. Which is fine even from a timing perspective, and even from a retracement perspective, you didn't tap the 618, which is the invalidation. And you go and make your final 5th wave to the upside. So interestingly, the structure is still intact. Right, I'm going to leave this in here and throw it in the folder. Okay, bullish. Yep. And then, yeah, that's the insane bullish structure. So those are basically the scenarios, legends. I'm just going to keep it simple. I know that there are more scenarios, but I'm just going to keep it simple over here, okay? Yeah, I mean, it's such an ugly ABC over here. I'm going to delete that one. Right, so legends, that is basically your bullish and your bearish case scenarios looking at the price of Bitcoin. And for now, based on all the bearish case scenarios, the WXY, okay, the ABC, and all the bullish case scenarios, because there are more problems with the bullish case scenarios where the low is in, there's timing issues, there's look and feel issues, okay, the bearish case scenarios carries higher probability. And it's not because I want to, okay, it's just what the technicals are showing me. The bearish case scenarios for now carries the highest probability until the bullish case, until the bearish case scenarios gets invalidated. Right, legends, and you know, unfortunately, this is how technical analysis work. It doesn't matter how price rampages to the upside, there will always be a bearish case and a bullish case scenario. Okay, always. It doesn't matter how far we go up here. Even if we claim the highs, guess what? There's still a bearish case scenario. A, B, C. You will never get away from a bearish case scenario. Okay, that's unfortunately the problem with technical analysis, because if it was easy, everyone would have made money. And this is why it is so important that when you long support, you need to take profits when you start hitting resistance. If you have a DCA portfolio, just keep on buying the lows. Every time it dips, you buy the low. Every time it dips, you buy the low. It's the best strategy at the end of the day. You long support, you take profits at resistance. You short resistance, you take profits at support. You DCA every month, and hopefully, okay, you are buying when there's blood in the street. You're buying the lows when no one wants to buy. It comes back down, okay, you buy a little bit more, right? That's the best strategy at the end of the day. We're taking off from here. Yes, you know, and you know what's interesting? Kelefant? You know what's interesting for me about this low, okay, is that, oh, my music just stopped here in the background. Let's do another song. Right. There we go. What is very interesting for me about this low is that every time we have made a low before we got the rampage to the upside, there was something inside of the structure that looked off. Three-wave structure. And then it turned out to be extremely bullish. Okay, every time we have made a low, there was something wrong. It was rare, never seen before. So I can't help but wonder, what if, okay, all the scenarios are pointing against the bullish case scenarios at the moment, where we're going to form a higher low and continue. And I must be honest, you know, it's, you know, from a technical perspective, the probabilities are higher to still come and claim this low. I cannot ignore that fact. From a psychology perspective, or psychological perspective, okay, I can't help but wonder that maybe the low is in, right? And it's going to be those, once again, the rare scenario. I remember this three-wave structure like it was yesterday. Everyone saw this three-wave structure and said, we're going to come and claim the low. There's no ways we're moving up, right? And then what happened? We fell down. Yeah, there we go. There we go. We're going to go and claim $42,000. Everyone was screaming for $42,000. And then we just went ballistically here to the upside. So there's a chance. There's definitely a chance. And there are corrective structures that supports that the low could be in. Unfortunately, the structures that support the low to be in has more problems than the bearish case scenarios. So, right, legends, I have to acknowledge that fact. Okay. Okay, can we have a look at SUI? But this low was not that natural, right? What do you mean by natural? Okay. Another thing I want to point out, now that you're talking about natural, I think I prepared it on this chart, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, here we go. I'm not sure if you guys saw this this tweet from me yesterday. Okay, every single time. Okay, you know, this is something that I pay attention to, is that when we rampage, when we started the bull market here at the bottom, and we had the rampage to the upside, look at the previous highs, how you dip in and you get a massive explosion. Again, you explode, okay, you dip in above the previous highs, you dip in, look at the bottom, you dip in, you explode, you dip in, you explode, okay. Again, we literally tapped this high. Look at this. We tapped this high to perfection. Literally just tapped it. And then off we went. And now again, if I take a horizontal line and I snap it onto this high, I think it's the log scale. Right? We almost, okay, we actually did not tap this one. So yes, from an unnatural perspective, we did not tap this high. But we dipped into the support box. Okay, so, you know, maybe it still needs to come and tap it properly. Okay, cool, legends. Remember to smash up that like button. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, this is where I do pure technical analysis, not because, you know, emotions are driving my trading decisions, but technical analysis drives my trading decisions at the end of the day. Right, let's go back here onto the 5 minute. I just want to see what is price doing here at the moment. Ooh, double top. Let's see. So obviously I got stopped out from this position over here, but it was a free trade, right? It was definitely a free trade. I want to see what CVD is doing. Let's refresh this. Still have Bearish CVD building up. Yeah, very Very, very confusing structure, legends. Very confusing structure. If the triangle is going to play out, okay, we still have time because this triangle will potentially finish a little bit later tonight. And usually on Fridays, remember guys, Fridays, okay, we usually get a big move on a Friday just before the market closes. Is this going to be the move? Or are we just going to fall down here and now we have formed an A, B, C in a zigzag? You don't claim the low and then we get the big move. But I'm expecting a big move today before the markets close. Because we all know what happens on Saturdays and Sunday mornings. Price just goes sideways. Okay, so there's still time to build either the triangle later tonight and then we get the last move to the upside. Or we just start falling down here from where we are. We form the zigzag to the downside. And then we go up, but then there's also that possibility for the ABC to the downside, but it needs to happen quick before the end of today because I don't like to see, well, not because I don't like to, it's not often that you get massive volatile moves on weekends. So if this is a normal A, B, C, okay, this needs to happen now. It needs to fall, 3, 4, 5, okay. That's already going to go into Saturday, guys. Right? But I mean, at least you're getting the volatile move. Maybe on the weekend, you consolidate to form the wave 4. Sunday evening, you go down for the last wave to the downside. So, you know, you could form all of this today, the big move, right? And then on weekend, you consolidate to create wave 4. Then you go down for wave 5. I would like to see a little bit more of Bearish CVD for this scenario to play out. Right, legends. Okay, I see there has been a couple of altcoin requests, and let's go and look at SUI over here. I mean, what is there to say about SUI? It's pumping, right? But it is reject. Why do I have this trend over here? Let me go and figure out, why do I have this trend? Oh, okay, it's basically retesting the scene of the crime. Just want to make sure. Oh no, that's it. Okay, that's the right way. Okay, but I mean, beautiful breakout. Beautiful breakout. SUI is rampaging to the upside. It's starting to hit resistance, major resistance. You can see the, oops, need to take my box. Okay, there's your resistance. It's starting to hit major resistance. I wouldn't be surprised if that's also the golden pocket when you take your fib from the high to the low. Yes, it's tapping into the golden pocket. So please, guys, you know, don't FOMO into trades, right? You are starting to hit resistance over here on the smaller time frames. If you wanted to get into SUI, right, there was your breakout. There was your breakout. Your stop goes below the low, or below the low if you're in a swing trade, right? This is where you're supposed to start taking some off the table. This is not a place to FOMO in because you're hitting major resistance to the upside. Okay, can it punch through? Obviously, it can punch through, but I mean, I don't see it doing it on the first attempt. You would expect a little bit of a cool off. You want SUI, I mean, it's just been an absolute straight line to the upside. You expect a little bit of a cool off. It needs to retrace itself, find some support, create a higher low. You have another trend, you play the breakout. I do not long into resistance. Unless you smash through and you flip the resistance into support, then I will play that breakout. It's always another way to get into the trade, but where price is right now is a no trading zone. If you're not already in the trade, or maybe you played the breakout inside of that consolidation area, okay, what can I say? It's hitting resistance here to the upside. Okay. Right, they could dump it with low volume on the weekend, bring price lower with little effort, then buy. Yes, exactly. You know, I don't like to, guys, I specifically do not like to trade on weekends because it feels, you know, a lot of people always talk about manipulation. And you know, for me, manipulation is at its best over weekends because there's no real volume and money in the market to keep it stable. So if you want to manipulate the price of Bitcoin, the best time to do it is over a weekend, right? Because you can move the price with low volume. So that's why I don't like to trade on weekends. I don't mind doing a YouTube live stream and doing some technical analysis, but you will very, very seldom see me trade on a weekend. Maybe on a Sunday night, then I'll start trading again. But on a Saturday, I will not trade. Okay, I just don't like it. Right, I already closed my long in SUI at 2.3. Beautiful, beautiful. 2.3, 2.3. Oh, that's a little bit lower down. 2.3. You closed your long at 2.3. Oh, I mean, if you played this little break, it just depends on where you entered. If you played that little breakout, okay, and you took profits here by the highs, more or less by the highs, it's a successful trade. Definitely. Yeah, and I mean, it's always good practice to leave a little bit of a moon bag open. Always leave like 5 or 10% of the position open. If price carries on in that direction, at least you still make more money. Make sure that your position is protected, so if it turns against you, you still claim and claw back your 90% of profits. But I mean, SUI is on fire, guys. SUI is on fire. I have done deep technical analysis here last Friday when I did all the altcoin requests. I did a lot of technical analysis here on SUI. Okay. I'm sure a lot of you are day trading some of the altcoins over here, but I mean, this could definitely be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inside of a contracting diagonal. Okay, be careful when it gets here. It could go down for a larger corrective structure where this becomes 1, 2, and then we go back into a bull market. Anyways, I still see, from a larger time frame perspective, I still see higher prices for SUI. Okay, I still see higher prices. It's respecting the trends. It's respecting the diagonal. The bounces has been really bullish. I can count a beautiful corrective structure that has potentially even come to an end here on SUI. So, you know, also something to highlight is that when you bring altcoins into the equation in terms of where Bitcoin is, okay, here on the larger time frame, I still need to discuss. I don't think I'm going to have time today. I still wanted to discuss this model over here. Let's see if we have time. Okay. When you look at where the altcoins are, the lows that they have made, the targets that they have hit from a corrective structure perspective, I can't help but think from a technical perspective, based on where all the altcoins are lying, that the low needs to be in. If Bitcoin is going to make another low, it's going to destroy the bullish structures for 99% of the altcoins out there. Some of them might survive, like Doge and Link and SUI, and you know, some of them might survive and still keep their bullish structures intact, but it's going to wipe out a lot of bullish structures on some of the altcoins. Most of the altcoins have already hit the lowest point to still have a chance for momentum to the upside. Okay, so, right, it's just interesting to think about that as well. Mr. Matt, CBM, Crypto by Matthew, here in the house as well. If you guys haven't checked out Matt's channel, you know, he's an absolute legend. Let me see if I have him here down in my follow list. Let's do this. Okay, I check out Matt. Where's Mr. Matt over here? It would be so embarrassing if Mr. Matt is not over here. He's over here. Right, here we go. If you guys have not checked out Crypto by Matt, I check out his videos every single day, right? He summarizes all the news in a way that you can understand it in a simplistic way to absorb all of the news that's going on in crypto, the tariff wars that's going on. I believe, Matt, you've released another video today. So if you guys haven't checked out Matt, go give him a follow. I really enjoy his content, especially from a fundamental and news perspective. Right. I'm good, bro. Keep up the fire content. Love it. Smash the like, legends. Share where you can. Yes. Right, legends. Something else. Okay. Someone asked the question. Let me see if I still have that marked out over here. He asked the question. Hi, Dewald. Do you think we will still have time for a bull market if it's supposed to come to an end at the end of October? Is there still time? Well, the best way, and I mean, guys, this looks so childish when I do this. Let's just put a thinner line over there. Okay, the best way is to zoom into this little box. Okay, let's zoom into this little box. Okay, let's maybe even use this little tool over here. So let's say price falls down. Okay, it finds the low. It completes the A, B, C to the downside. Okay, and then it starts motoring to the upside. The low is in, buying opportunity. Let's go, right? Nothing moves in a straight line, so I need to give it some angle. Let's say we go and smash the highs, we bounce on top, we go back up, but now the parabolic, the face melting wave that no one is expecting or that we want to see from the price of Bitcoin rampages here to the upside. Okay, kind of like what happened over here. That little wave and this little parabolic move happened very quickly, very fast to the upside. Okay, look at the 2017 bull market, absolute rampage to the upside. We have not had the euphoric, this is what's also referred to as the euphoric run. Okay, we have not had the euphoric run to the upside just as yet. So there's still time. We can even finish the last low on Bitcoin beginning June, end of May, and we will still have time for the structure to finish. There's one thing that you guys have to remember. It does not have to come to an end at 27 October 2025. The bull market can extend a little bit. It can extend, and I have seen it happen. Okay, it can go into November. It can even go into the end of December. It can overextend ever so slightly. The 4-year model is based on more or less, okay, the bull market is more or less 3 years. It's not 3 years to the dot. And then on that day, after 3 years, we just go into a bear market. Some bear markets are 13 months, 14 months. Mostly they are 12 months. All the bear markets are usually around 3 years, not exactly. So your bull market can extend a little bit. Doesn't have to come to an end on 27 October. It can also be a little bit shorter. Otherwise, you know, obviously it works the other way around as well. So the timing that I have in here is just the perfect time when it's supposed to come to an end. It can overextend a little bit, and it can also be a little bit shorter. But based on just how I have drawn it out over here, there's still time. There's still time to have one more aggressive push here to the upside. Question is, how aggressive is it going to get? Is it going to be a parabolic move here to the upside that takes us to $500,000? I don't care, legends. All that the model is telling me is time. There is still time for upwards momentum. I'm not fixated about the target that Bitcoin can reach. Okay, right, but there's still time for one more low and a high. And obviously, if we're not going to make one more low and we're just going to find our feet from where Bitcoin is at the moment, well, then there's still a lot of, you know, right? How parabolic is this move going to be? I don't know, right, legends? But there is still time left. I know that a lot of people are saying we're out of time. We have to start a correction to the downside. We've run out of time. No, there's still time left. Still a lot that can happen in a couple of months. Right. Hi, Dewald. What do you think about some of those gaming coins that are at odds? Their structures looks awful. Yes, narrative space pumps normally don't care, but I have my doubts about gaming. I think the narrative's last bull cycle was gaming, loads of gaming, and NFTs. I think that and Web3, if I remember correctly. Metaverse, Web3, Metaverse, NFTs, gaming, that absolutely dominated the space over here. This bull market so far has been dominated by AI narratives and meme coins, strangely enough. That's just been messing up the whole market, okay? Giving crypto a really bad reputation. All these stupid meme coins that keeps on getting launched. But yes, when I look at most of the gaming tokens, okay, when I start going through altcoins like Sui, it looks incredible. The structures still looks intact. You have a low, you have a higher low, you have a higher high, you have a higher low. You can see the structure from a macro perspective looks incredible. It's intact. Then when I go into my list over here, okay, I just need to click the right buttons and I look at XTZ. Okay, I'm here on the daily time frame. And this is with most of the gaming tokens as well. When I see this, now this looks bad, guys. It's still making lows, bear market lows. Okay, it's still making lower lows. That looks bad, right? And most of the gaming tokens are doing this. Okay, I want to rather be positioned in altcoins that are still showing strength, like SUI, like HBAR, like Link, like ICP. Okay, I have a list. Where they have not invalidated their bullish structures, right? So yeah, very interesting point over there. Yeah, in gaming we have structure, just lower lows. Exactly. And just remember, guys, even with these tokens that are still making lower lows, if we are still going to get an altcoin season before the end of October this year, they are gonna pump. Make no mistake, when you have an altcoin season, even the shittest of shittest altcoin pumps to the upside. Okay, I just want to be positioned in an altcoin that's going to give me face melting price action instead of just, it still needs to form, okay, a high, maybe, you know, and it falls back down and makes another low. No. Okay, I just prefer to be positioned in an altcoin that are showing strong technical analysis. Higher highs, higher lows. We all want to trade higher highs and higher lows to the upside. I don't want to trade something that's still making lower lows. It's from a simplicity perspective. Right, Dewald, I can't wait for your trading course. Very excited for that. When is it coming out? Guys, it's going to take a while to put together. What I'm thinking of doing is to maybe release the course in modules. As I'm recording another module, editing it, making it sexy and make it understandable, maybe I'll release that module and then start doing the next module. So that's my thinking at the moment, is to maybe record my trading course in modules, and as it becomes available, I will release it. Because I think if I'm going to wait for the entire course to be completed, it's going to take a while, right? There's so much knowledge I want to share in that course. Right, thank you, Dewald. Keep in mind, May walk away. Yes, selling May, that is a very interesting very interesting point. Okay, I think big dump is coming next month. Let's hope for the best, right? It's either going to be a big dump or it's going to be an insane higher low. Okay, maybe it's going to be this. Okay, or it's going to be that, right? But I do expect price, legends. I just want to end off with this. The probabilities from a technical perspective on the lower time frames over here are still higher to claim the lows. The probabilities on the daily time frame are still higher to claim the highs before we claim the low, regardless of what happens over here. Cool, legends. Remember, the links for the exchanges that I use is always down in the description. Mr. Matt over here. Okay, let me just backtrack over here. Where is my channel, right? If you guys have not checked out my home channel, I have a lot of tutorials over here. Okay, if you want to educate yourself and you're waiting for my trading course to come out, there's a lot of information. You know, the full moon that I explained, some trading tutorials on some of the exchanges that I use, my D-line strategy, how to get 604% gains, how to draw weekly and monthly levels. I do have some great educational content. Risk management. How few people actually talk about risk management on their YouTube channels. Okay, I actually made a video about proper risk management. Go and check it out. Right, legends. Thank you so much for joining the live stream, and I will see you all in the next one. Have a super weekend. Remember to smash up that like button, and until the next one, cheers for now.